It is definitely winter here in Michigan, and I recently did a video on how I prepare the chicken coop and the run ahead of our winter weather. I thought I would follow that up with a quick video of my routine now that winter is upon us. There are two things that I do on a daily basis, another two things that I do a few times a week, and one thing that I do just ahead of really cold snaps. There are three problems that I'm trying to avoid with my routine here. Problem one would be dehydration. Problem two is frostbite, especially of their combs and wattles, possibly their feet. And problem three is boredom. That might not sound like a really big deal, but if they get bored, they can start pecking at each other or showing other signs of aggression, and that can go south really quick. So I want to prevent all three of those things. I'll start with the daily routine. I'm out here every day anyway collecting eggs, and these extra 2 steps that I take add maybe a minute, 2 minutes to that whole process. Hi ladies. I like to go through with my high-tech stick here. This is a heated water dispenser. I go through with this stick and just quickly depress that little nipple down there and make sure that water is flowing, and do that on the other side as well. Let's see, they appreciate the fresh water. Just takes about 10 seconds to do that, but it ensures the chickens have constant access to liquid water, and that is the most important thing I want to check, because without that, they will die. My second daily task is to check them for any signs of frostbite, and normally just the sound of my voice brings them out, but it's cold, currently 14 Fahrenheit, -10 Celsius, and they're really not wanting to come out. I'm going to toss some treats in just so I can get them to come out and visually inspect them. Hey ladies, some sweet potato for you. Now I have all 5 of them out. What I'm looking for here are any signs of frostbite, discoloration, damage to their combs and wattles, or any signs that their feet are injured from frostbite and they're walking with pain. These ladies all look great. You might be able to see the one behind the ladder there. Some of these have a paler comb versus their normal bright red. That's pretty normal in the winter, but if you start seeing white spots or black spots, that is a sign of frostbite damage. All I'm seeing are normal, healthy, bright red combs and some slightly paler pink combs. So I think we are all set as far as frostbite issues. We're all good. Water access and frostbite damage are the 2 things I check for daily because they can be life-threatening. There are 2 other things that I do 2, maybe 3 times a week. The majority of their run at this point is covered in snow, and the chickens are showing an extreme aversion to walking around on this. I don't blame them. Because I put the clear tarp over this area, they do have a nice dry area in here where they can scratch around, but that's not a lot of space for the birds, and my concern is they will get bored or begin pecking at each other. So my first task here is really for their mental health, and that is to turn some of this over with my pitchfork and open up new compost for them to dig around in and create more space for them to walk around. This gravity-fed DIY trash can feeder holds a full 50-pound bag of feed, and I don't need to refill it very often. But since I'm out here anyway, turning over the compost for them, I do like to just double check while I'm at it. Yep, looks good. They aren't gonna need any more feed in there anytime soon. They will pick through this just fine as it is. Simply by turning it over, I've created a lot of interest for them. They get pretty excited, but just to gild the lily, I'm gonna throw on some scratch grains and sweet potato trimmings to really encourage them to get out here and work this compost pile. Chickens do need extra calories in the winter to help them maintain body heat, so throwing those scratch grains and the sweet potato bits down has the added benefit of giving them that caloric boost. You can see they are happily digging through and consuming everything they can find in that freshly opened up compost pile. This ought to keep them engaged, mentally stimulated, and on fresh ground for a good chunk of time. The added benefit of them being really engaged and distracted with that freshly turned compost is that it lets me get into this coop and do my second twice-a-week task, namely turning over their bedding. The chickens are spending a little more time inside the coop than they normally would, and if their manure were to build up, they could have ammonia issues and respiratory damage. You'll have to take my word for it, but this coop does not smell bad at all. It just smells like dried leaves at this point. That said, especially under the roosts here where some manure can accumulate, I do try to come in a couple times a week and turn it over to ensure that the dried leaves and the chicken manure mix together, are aerated, and start to compost rather than the manure building up on the surface. Okay, that took me maybe 20 seconds, but you can see it makes a difference. They now have nice, fluffy, aerated bedding without manure all over the surface, and I can move on to a task that I only do right before massive cold spells. Our current temperature is 14 Fahrenheit, about -10 Celsius, but in a couple of days, we're dropping to 6 degrees Fahrenheit overnight, which is about -15 Celsius. That's cold. As you can see, they do like to hang out under the coop. That is completely draft-free down there, and I did shove that full of leaves as part of my preparation for the winter. So they will hang out there during the day, but at night I want to make sure that their coop is also as warm and dry as possible ahead of these cold snaps. I'm going to pack another complete bag of dried leaves into the interior of this coop and kind of shove it up against the sidewalls, so that in addition to the interlocking solid 1.5 inch thick wood walls of this coop, they will also have several inches of dried leaves, insulating those exterior walls and helping to keep the interior nice and warm and toasty during that cold snap. I said I was going to add one of these bags. This is a full 30-gallon yard waste bag. I ended up adding 2. All of the leaves I just put in there will combat the risk of frostbite in 2 ways. First, they act as physical insulation against the walls and it helps to keep the space warm. That helps with frostbite. They also absorb any excess moisture coming from the chicken's manure or their exhalations, and that absence of moisture will also help to prevent frostbite. Typically, you see frostbite when somebody is subjected to cold and wet conditions. The leaves help with both of those. They help with the cold and they help prevent wet. You can hopefully see I've really shoved that up against the outside walls. I did not block the ventilation strip that runs along the ceiling line here. You do still want ventilation even in the winter, but that will pass above the chickens' heads. And then the part that's at their body height has been lined pretty thoroughly with leaves. I also put a fresh layer down underneath the roosts. Why not? I'm in here dropping in leaves anyway. And that will further help to prevent any respiratory issues. As we have additional cold snaps, I will continue adding more dried leaves, and it'll go in and turn the bedding, gradually work it into the mix on the floor. Over time, it builds up a really nice, thick composting material on the floor of the coop. When spring rolls around, I will clean all of that out and I will have awesome compost for the garden. But for now, my focus really is on insulating the chickens, keeping them warm, and making sure they don't have any respiratory issues inside the coop. It only took me maybe 5 or 6 minutes to go in and turn over that compost, but as you can tell, it's made their day considerably better. Similarly, it took me maybe 5 minutes to go in, quickly rotate that bedding, and add 2 more bags of leaves into the coop. Figure I've got, call it a minute or 2 every day, every week. All in is probably 10 minutes of time, and then I add another 10 to 15 minutes twice a week for my compost turning and my bedding refresh. All in, I've got this down to about 30-40 minutes a week of time that I'm spending to keep the chickens safe, healthy, and comfortable. And for me, that is absolutely worth it. I'm certainly not an expert on this, but I do hope this routine is helpful for anybody that's trying to put together their own ideas. If you are in a cold climate like mine, I hope your chickens are doing well. If there's anything I didn't mention that you think I should be doing, please flag it below. And as always, if there's anything I didn't mention, or if you have questions on anything I did say, please put them below and I will do my best to answer. Until next time, stay warm. Thanks.